Would this even be an ADHD podcast if shit didn't occasionally hit the fan? Well, here we are. The fan has been hitteth. Is that even a word? Hitteth? Who knows? Doesn't matter. But basically, Laura and I are both up against it just now. We have a lot on our plates, and unfortunately, that has meant that this week we have been unable to get together to record intros for this week's episode. We could have just put this episode out without any intros or outros, but it didn't seem appropriate because we like to use the intros and outros to update you with any important information in regards to the ADHD community and also any updates that we have as well. So what we have done is we've found a way around it. It means I very much feel like a news anchor right now, handing over to my colleague. But before we dive into this amazing interview, I'm going to pass you over to Laura, who has some really important updates for you all.
Okay, so I'm actually recording this on my phone on a voice memo, which I've only just discovered that my phone does this because ever the technophobe. I don't even know where to start. It is ADHD Awareness Month and things are really, really tough. As the saying goes, it never rains, it pours, which feels particularly apt as I sit here in what is now day 3 of pretty much constant pouring down rain. And it's raining hard at the moment in life and in the community and in everything that's going on. And all we can do is our best and persevere. And, as Dr. Nighat Arif said in our interview with her in episode 1 of this series, we are copers and we do cope. We shouldn't have to, but we do, unfortunately. And so that's what we do. I'm in Edinburgh and next week I'm in Birmingham. And at this moment in time, I do not have my laptop with me because of the thing. So I probably don't need to apologise, but I acknowledge that I have absent-mindedly done something that would be really helpful and beneficial, both to the podcast and to us and to myself. So here I am anyway. So in last week's episode, we touched on the fact that we don't have inside information about what is going on with this crisis of a medication shortage for ADHD medication to just completely go during ADHD Awareness Month is just horrendous. And as we said, we are in the trenches with you with that. I have medication to see me through until the end of the month, which I'm now considering rationing because I keep looking at all of the different pharmacies around me, and I'm doing the Boots medication checker and nil pois. It just ain't happening. There is no meds right now. But having said that we didn't have inside information, the universe, or rather the community, has provided, and an NHS professional has stepped forward with inside information, which I'm going to share here. Obviously, the person, I've double checked with the person if that is okay, and they have said that although it's not been said that this information is confidential, it is understandable that they would still like to remain anonymous. So I'm going to share this without giving the person's name, but please know that this is from a very legitimate source. So this is from the horse's mouth, so to speak. Okay, so this first message, which was received on the 6th of October. Whilst the exact duration of the shortage is unknown, the current anticipated date of stock availability at the time of writing for Elvan's 30mg capsules is from the week commencing the 17th of December 2023. Elvan's 50 milligrams from the week commencing the 6th of November 2023, and Elvan's 60 milligrams capsules from the week commencing the 23rd of October 23, incidentally, ADHD Day, and Elvant 70 milligrams capsules from the week commencing the 13th of November 2023. We can confirm the above dates correspond to the anticipated state of stock availability within the United Kingdom, including Scotland. However, we are unable to provide further guidance in relation to obtaining Elvants from specific pharmacies. We are monitoring the situation closely, and we encourage you to speak with your clinician or pharmacist should you have any further questions regarding your treatment. This is an update that this person put out, as this update was specific to the partner pharmacy that they use. We have now been notified by NHS England that there is an expected shortage of medication for the UK. The current shortages are, excuse my pronunciation of words that I do not know, Aquasim XL 10, 20 and 30 milligram capsules, Zagatin XL 18 and 36 milligram prolonged release tablets, Concerta XL 54 milligram prolonged release tablets, Zenodate XL 27 milligram prolonged release tablets, Elvance 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 and 70 milligram capsules, Elvance Adult 30, 50 and 70 milligram capsules, Intuniv 1, 2, 3 and 4 milligram prolonged release tablet. We are, however, finding that patients are still able to source their medicine from a local pharmacy to them, as these pharmacies will still have stock on their shelves that has not been used as yet. All GP practices and NHS services have already been informed of this. So that was then. I then have another update here, which is specific to Greater Glasgow and Clyde, which states all of the above that I've just read, and also the Mental Health Prescribing Management Group has prepared the following advice to support the management of patients affected by this problem. Do not initiate any new patients on these medications until supply problems have been resolved. Contact all patients affected to establish how much medication they have left. Where a patient is unable to obtain a supply from their regular pharmacy, they should try an alternative pharmacy. For methylphenidate and lisdexamfetamine, advise patients to minimise the number of days they take medication. For example, only take on essential days for work, university, college, school. For guanfacine, if supplies do not allow for daily dosing, then this should be discontinued, as a treatment break of more than 2 days requires retitration. Ideally, this should be done gradually where supplies allow, reducing by 1 milligram every 3 to 7 days. If a dose change is needed to maintain a supply, remain on a single capsule dose to reduce the impact on supplies. Only double up on strengths, for example 20 milligrams and 30 milligrams, to make up a regular 50 milligram dose, if this is essential for maintaining patient safety. Taking a lower dose will give some clinical effect, just not with the same degree of effect. Contact local mental health pharmacy service for further advice. And there's a bit more. The person who has given this information goes on to say, we've been working all hours to tend to everyone we can and their treatment plans. We have a batch of children and adolescents on the non-stimulant Intuniv. We're having to reduce down their doses as it's a medication that can't be stopped suddenly, as this could potentially increase blood pressure dramatically. The bunch of youngsters on medication are the ones with the greatest difficulties in terms of emotions, behaviours and impulsivity, impacting their household and peer relationships. The poor souls are heading into upheaval after taking a long time getting them stable. And these are all small primary school ages. It's an absolute joke the pharmaceutical industry didn't have the foresight to scale up production last year. I'll keep you updated as we get any more updates. So that's the information that we have from somebody on the inside. And obviously, if there is further information or as there's further information, we will get that out to you also. So we're very, very grateful to that person, and that we can use the platform to hopefully benefit anyone who's listening, as we are all in the same boat here. There are lots of people offering fantastic information online on social media. So this includes our Priyanka, Little Miss ADHD. She has put out a couple of videos. She is obviously a pharmacist herself with ADHD, so she is a fantastic person to follow and to listen to the advice that she is giving on her social media platform. We also have Zoe Joanna Coaching has given out some great information. Obviously, the ADHD Adults Charity and ADHD Coach Catherine, just off the top of my head. So there are people giving ideas of how we can best support ourselves during this medication crisis. And, you know, from my end, all I can say is that I'm incredibly anxious and upset about this. Yeah, we're just in it with you. And as ever, the only advice that we can really give, as we're not medical professionals, is to lean into the community and know that you are not alone in your struggles. Speak out to people if you find yourself in a position where you are, unable to access medication. It's important to let the people in your lives know how this might impact yourself, your mental health, your behaviour, your relationships, your work, etc. So that would be a really good piece of advice that I could give. Not that I'm qualified to give any, but that's definitely what I'm taking. So that is it for now on the medication front. I'm sorry that is pretty bleak and very, very depressing and very shit in ADHD Awareness Month. But as I said, thank you to the person who has given this information to us. Okay, so as I mentioned just then, and also in the previous episode, we have ADHD AF Day on the 23rd of October. So we've moved the date to Monday, the 23rd of October for this year for logistical reasons. And on that day, we invite everyone, whether you are ADHD AF or you're just standing in solidarity with the leopard print army, to wear leopard print on that day. Take a photo of yourself and tag us in it. Share it on social media, on your story, on your page, or both. Tag at ADHD as Females with the hashtag ADHDAF Make It Count, and also tell us your number. What is your number? How long did you have to wait on the waiting list to get diagnosed, to get assessed? How long are you waiting? How long do you predict you have to wait, etc.? Give us your number. And if you would like to take part in that, but you would like to do it anonymously, you can also send that information to Louise at Louise.Louisa, who is one of our community members, who will pass that information on to us as part of the campaign. And I will give more information about that in due course. At this moment in time, I am trying desperately to get a web page up that contains all of this information that I hope laser beams will shoot out of my eyes and I'll be able to hyperfocus in the right direction and get that web page up on ADHDasFemales.com by the time this episode goes live. So hopefully that will happen, and the website gremlin of the Too Much tool will come back out again and I can just get that done in time, and in which case there will be a link in our bio and in the blurb of this episode to have all of the information together, including the information about the Leopard Print Army Fund, which is where £5 from each purchase of the ADHD Awareness ribbon pin, which is handmade by ADHD AF legend Rebecca Cowley of Working Class Jewellery in Birmingham, featuring a gold leopard over a bright orange acrylic ADHD Awareness ribbon on a pin. And the Leopard Print Army Fund, as I said, I will put information on the website, but in a nutshell, it is for activism and advocacy for our community. In terms of the actual campaign, Make It Count, as I said, the 23rd of October, we invite the whole community, wherever you are in the world, to join us for this online movement in solidarity in leopard print. But in real life, on that day, myself and a couple of others, including Ali McDonald, will be going to Holyrood, so Scottish Parliament HQ, in the morning of Monday, the 23rd of October, to just take a photograph. We just want to get a message out there during this very important month to try and make this ADHD Awareness Month count. And in the afternoon, we will be going to Westminster, so English Parliament HQ, with the same message. Again, just to take a photograph. We will be in leopard print, and as explained in the previous episode, although it's not illegal to protest, it is so very tricky. Tricksy hobbitses have made it very, very difficult to protest in England. So this is not a protest. We repeat, this is not a protest. It's not a demonstration. It is just a couple of us going to these places to take a photograph. And should you happen to be passing, and should you happen to be wearing leopard print, and should you want to come and say hello and take a photograph of us taking a photograph, then that would be wonderful, but not something I'm encouraging, because this is not a demonstration or a protest, because that would be illegal. So yeah, as I said, hopefully the website will be up and running by the time this episode goes out. Pray for me, peeps. And that is that. But there will be more in due course. Oh no, there is one more thing. So, as mentioned in the previous episode, people have asked, well, that's England and Scotland. What about Northern Ireland and Wales? So we have asked that anybody who does know what's going on in Northern Ireland and Wales with the ADHD diagnosis crisis we find ourselves in, not just nationally, but globally, in ADHD Awareness Month, which is far worse than last, we would like to invite you to come forward and give us the information that you have, should you wish to be part of a similar thing as to what we are doing, and you would like to go to the HQ of Parliament in those places in a similar way that we are, we would absolutely love that, and we would love to hear from you. But yeah, just one more time, just to really reiterate that we're just doing our best. You know, we are not anybody special that has, you know, anything other than a desperate need to make change happen. We cannot live with the injustice of all of this. We cannot deal with how much suffering we see and hear on a daily basis. And we want things to move along now. We have all suffered enough, and change needs to happen. And we don't have the information. We don't know when the neurodiversity bill is coming out in Scotland and what that is. That really needs to count. And we don't know the numbers for the data dashboard that was promised by the English government. We don't know how many people are on waiting lists, and there is no way for proper legislation to go forward to protect us and to make diagnosis happen in a timely fashion and for people to get help. That's never going to happen legally without these numbers from this data dashboard. So that's why this ADHD Awareness Month, our campaign, is about numbers, because we need the numbers. There's so many different problems to this crisis that we find ourselves in. You know, there is education, there's youth, then you've got actual diagnosis, you've got adults, you've got all this stuff going on. But to our mind, and thanks to the advice from our incredible head of activism, Canny Campaigns, Kat Owens, the numbers are where it starts. So on this day, the 23rd of October, although it is one day, it is not just one day. It is the start of an ongoing campaign leading up to the general election. So that is just the start. And yeah, fingers crossed for the website. So that's everything I think I need to say about that. And again, link in bio or blurb to purchase the ADHD awareness ribbon pins with £5 going to the Leopard Print Army Fund.
Thanks, Laura. Now it's time to go back to Dawn in the studio. No, actually, it's time for me never to do that again. I'm sorry, I can't help myself. It just feels weird doing things this way. And this is how I deal with weirdness. I become weird myself. So you're welcome. But moving swiftly on, what I do want to say is a huge thank you to Laura for sharing all of that incredibly important information. And a huge thanks to our community member who gave us all the important information with regards to the medication shortages. It just shows the power of community. We can all help support each other during these tough times. And so if you are struggling, please lean into the community. But yeah, thanks to Laura for giving us all the information, telling us all about ADHD Awareness Month, what's happening with ADHD AF Day, and for all of the hard work that you do. I have no doubt that your laser beam eyes are going to get to work and this webpage will be created. So yeah, good luck with that. You are a superstar. And speaking of superstars, our next guest, Eric Whittington, is a bit of a superstar himself. You might know him as Life Actuator. Eric has a whopping 172,000 Instagram followers. And if you thought that was a lot, then you should check out his TikTok, which has over 728,000 followers. Eric's helpful and often hilarious ADHD videos have been watched millions of times over and have not only been a great help to us, but many, many others in the ADHD community. So if you want to hear more about Eric, then you've come to the right place. Here he is.
ADHD has females, ADHD AF, ADHD has females, the podcast.
We did it for the acronym.
Hi, I'm Dawn.
Hi, I'm Laura, and
we are
ADHD
AF.
AF. Seriously.
Well, that feels like a lifetime ago.
Doesn't it just?
Since that recording in May 2022, we have been on quite the safari.
Mm-hmm.
We moved to the same street at the same time, at the same age, with the same undiagnosed neurodevelopmental condition. But despite all of the serendipity and the similarities, our ADHD presents completely differently from each other. But make no mistake, it is equally debilitating for us both.
Over the course of season 1, we used our voices to raise awareness, break the stigma, and share our experiences in the hope that they help others. And unbelievably, it worked, leading us to help listeners in almost every country in the world and creating ADHD AF live events and an online peer support community, for all of which we're so very grateful. Despite all that, we're still just two rebels with a cause, having a blether from a tiny village on the beach in Aberdeen, Scotland. Two pieces of sea glass washed up on the same shore.
Trigger warning. We cover some triggering topics, so please read the description of each episode before listening. We're not medical professionals, therapists or coaches. We're not qualified or even emotionally equipped to offer advice or support. We're only experts by our own experiences, which we share alongside what we discover in these crucial conversations to raise essential ADHD awareness amidst a global crisis. We won't always get it right. We will talk over each other and forget the point mid-sentence. As we continue to unmask, we're attempting to unashamedly own our own too muchness.
We wear leopard print to our events because the leopard is a symbol of Aberdeen. It also symbolises bravery, courage, and the reclaiming of power. Plus, we're a little bit Han.
Yeah.
So that's why it's become the uniform of our leopard print army, our own special camouflage to unite the community.
We're called ADHD as females purely for the acronym ADHD AF. Get it? Because we both have a juvenile sense of humour.
And we swear like sailors. Sorry, mums. And of course, we're ADHD as...
Anyway, this is an inclusive space where all genders are so very welcome.
Yes, they are. So join us as we continue to make some serious noise about this misunderstood condition to help others like us alongside raising awareness with a hope to influence systemic change so that those in need can be treated both medically and with the respect they deserve. We continue on this safari because hell hath no fury like two late-diagnosed ADHD women.
ADHD has females, the podcast.
Let's start with some quick-fire questions.
Yeah.
So, if you would tell us your name.
Eric.
And your location?
That was fast. Las Vegas.
Oh, wow. Occupation.
Right now, I'm a business owner, self-employed.
Diagnosis status?
ADHD combined type.
Early or late diagnosed?
Early. Yeah, I was 7 years old when I got my diagnosis.
Oh, wow.
That's so interesting. And was it an easy or traumatic diagnosis?
easy because I was, I was young. I didn't really know what was going on.
Are you a can't start or a can't stop person?
Both. Yeah. Totally depending on what it is I'm doing. Yeah, but very much so both.
And are you a can't sleep or can't get up person?
Both. Yeah, I'm a very poor sleeper.
This is a recurring theme, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We might have to change these questions.
Yeah.
Over emotional or impassive?
Oh man. Gosh, both.
Yeah. Yeah.
Are you a texter or a talker?
Talker. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Books or audiobooks?
Books, actually. Yeah.
And going out or staying in?
In Vegas.
Yeah, I'm in Vegas, but I don't drink anymore. I've got a 1-year-old at home. Yeah, nowadays it's stay at home a lot, but no, that's not even true. I like to go out, especially with my daughter. Even if it's just to the park.
Cats or dogs?
Well, I have a cat, but I would say I'm a dog person. I'm both. I love cats and dogs.
Yeah.
Amazing. And what is your current hyper focus?
Current hyper focus, creating content, I would say.
Yeah. Great. So actually, with that in mind, will you tell us the name of your platform?
Yeah, Life Actuator is the name of my platform, which is also the name of my business. I've been doing it for about a year now.
You've come a long old way in a year, hey?
Yeah, it's grown pretty fast, especially for someone who like I pretty much sucked at social media before this.
Yeah.
I really wasn't on social media. I wasn't on Facebook. I had tried to do a little like Instagram thing in the past, totally unrelated to ADHD. And that was like I did something for a year and like barely got to 1,000 followers. So yeah, it was kind of like surprising for me when I started this ADHD thing up with TikTok and Instagram. I started them both around the same time, and it started to take off pretty quickly for TikTok. And then I decided, all right, I'm not going to even worry about Instagram, which was a huge mistake. But now I'm trying to post more to Instagram now. But yeah, I've been focusing more on growing the TikTok channel. Yeah.
And what is the purpose of your platform? Like we share quite a lot of your videos; they're very popular.
Yeah.
If somebody hasn't found you, what are you all about?
Awareness, yeah. So on my social media channels right now, TikTok and Instagram, it's all about awareness. And I think of it as 3 different audiences that I'm trying to speak to. The first one is anyone who doesn't know that they have ADHD. So my hope is that they, watch some of my videos, and if they are resonating with them, and it turns out that they do have ADHD, they go out and seek a diagnosis and seek help if it's something that they, need, right? If they're struggling and they need help. The second group of people is anybody with ADHD who doesn't necessarily have a full grasp on what that means and how their brain is impacted by that ADHD. So I hope that I can just, shed a little bit more light on how our brains work, and that, can become the route for them to address to, change some of the behaviors in their lives to live happier lives. And the last group is anyone who doesn't have ADHD, but knows people with ADHD, which is most people,
which is
right?
Everyone, right?
Yeah, which is everyone. And that to me is one of the not more important, but that is just as important as those other groups, because I think the more people have a better understanding of ADHD in general, the better we're all going to be, right? The better we're all going to work together. I try to make my videos as engaging and entertaining as possible. I keep in mind, like, I want this to be something that, even somebody without ADHD would be interested in watching, because, there's really no reason. That's not the right word. There's no like impetus, I think, for people without ADHD, unless they have a loved one or very, close friends who have ADHD, to kind of go out and learn more about it. So I hope that I can kind of bridge that with entertaining content.
Amazing.
Yeah, we're definitely on the same page with that.
Yeah, absolutely. So
Awesome.
You said you were diagnosed at 7 years old. How did that impact growing up?
I mean, ultimately, I'm sure for the better, because I was able to get more support than I would have had otherwise. Things were still really, really, really tough when I was a kid, especially with school. I was getting in trouble constantly. But I think if there wasn't something to point to and, work on in like a clinical way, like with the doctors and all that, then I think things would have been much, much worse. And I mean, honestly, I probably would have been much more likely to, get addicted to something or worse, right?
Statistically
So,
speaking, that's
yeah.
true as well. Hey,
Yeah.
do you feel that those struggles that you faced had a hurt your self-esteem? Do you think that growing up that was the knock-on effect of it?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, I developed an anxiety disorder as well. When I was entering junior high, that was the point where I sort of started to become more aware of my differences, like socially. I also have auditory processing disorder.
I have that as well.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that made speech for me in particular more difficult. And when I started to recognize that in conversations with people and sort of become more aware of how I was thinking that people were reacting to what I was saying, that morphed into crippling anxiety that persisted really all through college. And that didn't really start dissolving until I went into the professional world and first got promoted into a managerial position. Being in that environment kind of forced me to, snap out of it isn't the right word because it definitely wasn't a snap, but start to like dissolve that anxiety. But yeah, I had major self-esteem issues. I mean, with a lot of things, just, me not doing good in school, me getting in trouble all the time. I was also, I got like my IQ tested when I was getting my ADHD diagnosis, and I was like a high intelligent kid who just kept, screwing up in school. So there was that notion and that expectation that I'm smart enough to be doing better, right? But I wasn't. I could see where I was messing up, but I couldn't do anything about it, right?
Yeah.
At least it felt in some way that there was a block preventing me from doing the right things. So yeah, it was just that really crappy juxtaposition with like knowing you're smart, but not knowing any better than to just constantly mess up. That really did a number on my brains.
So would you say, we always ask what has ADHD cost you?
Well, it's usually undiagnosed. What is undiagnosed ADHD cost you? But obviously, you are diagnosed and you were diagnosed early. So it's the same question, but
yeah. So with what you're saying, it's definitely cost you in terms of education, but also in terms of confidence and relationships, I guess.
Yeah. I would say 100%. It's of course it's hard to imagine, an alternate reality where Eric doesn't have ADHD, but I think education is a major one. I don't feel like I got a lot out of college, just like I didn't get a lot out of the rest of my schooling, but I have enough to like do okay now in what I'm doing, and that feels good. Relationships. So my wife also has ADHD, and we have struggles in how our ADHD behaviors impact each other. As I think all couples with ADHD, or if one of the members of the relationship has ADHD, it makes it a challenge. So with friends as well, like I've lost touch with so many good friends, and that's I'm sure something you could correlate directly back to ADHD.
Yeah.
And so your hope is that in raising awareness and making people understand that can ease those conflicts and difficulties in relationships.
100%. Yeah. So I am a firm believer to address a problem, you have to get to the root of it.
Yeah.
With ADHD, I think with people who have undiagnosed ADHD or have ADHD and don't really understand the mechanisms behind it, they are looking at all of the surface level problems that they are, encountering every single day, trying to put patches on those problems, but inevitably they fall back into their old ways, their old habits, get frustrated, demoralized. Understanding what exactly is going on, what is being caused by ADHD, I think empowers you a little bit more to address it, at its root. And that, whether that be medication, whether that be psychotherapy, or just putting in place tools and systems to address, those root causes, understanding that ADHD is likely at the core of a lot of these things, I think really helps with any way that you're addressing the problems.
Yeah, 100%. Psychoeducation, understanding is such a huge part of it, isn't it?
Yeah.
What would you say, like now, today, what is your greatest ADHD struggle? Because we know that ADHD can swing in and take out loads of areas in our life, but what is the one that you do feel is like your main struggle?
Well, I would say as a entrepreneur, not having somebody telling me like what to do. First off, it's fantastic. I don't want to go back to that, but at the same time, it's planning ahead and the prioritizing, the organizing, like being responsible for all of that is probably the hardest aspect of ADHD for me right now. When I was working for, companies, I had bosses and I had direction, there were a lot of times where I didn't have to, exercise those areas of the executive functions, right? Because I had somebody, doing that work for me. Now it's I'm responsible for all of that. So
it's interesting, isn't it? Because it's kind of like there's two sides to it. Well, there's three sides to it, because you've got the accountability element of it.
Yeah.
That someone's going to say when this needs to be done by, or a deadline or whatever. You've got the executive function, as you mentioned.
Yeah.
But then also, reading between the lines, if you're like us, having failed or got things wrong or been told off quite a lot, it can be hard to trust your own judgment without somebody saying, yes, that's right, do that, yes, that's right, gold star. Like it's all three of those things for us anyway.
100%. Yeah. I mean, there are so many factors that make it amazing and make it like terrible, right? And it's really, that's kind of like a microcosm of ADHD in general, I think. It's never like simple. Like the solution to being happier with ADHD like isn't becoming an entrepreneur, right? Like that like a lot of people with ADHD have entrepreneurial minds, and they're like, they work for themselves and they're happy, but it's like there's a whole new set of problems that are going to arise when you get to that point. And ADHD really kind of feels like that in almost every aspect of life, it's like
so true, because things are so contradictory, right?
Yes.
So we can have, like, give an example, again, I'm being generic and we are all different, but often people with ADHD like ourselves can feel like they need like guidance and, as we said, accountability. But then on the other hand, they cannot like being told what to do.
Right. You don't want to feel oppressed, right? Like you don't have the freedom to be, creative with what you're doing, right? And having those constraints sometimes makes it hard. We don't want to feel like we're in a box.
Yeah. It's like, I want to do things my way, but I want to get your approval that my way's okay.
Yeah, it is exactly. Yeah. And it has to be approval. Don't don't say that this isn't the right move, because that's going to hurt.
Yeah. Don't tell me it's not okay.
Exactly.
Rejection sensitivity, is that something that you suffer? Because I know when doing the social media, that's one of the things that really gets to me, because as a content creator, you're like, will they like it? Have I said the wrong thing? Like, do you feel that?
Oh yeah, 100%. I gotta say, it's gotten easier. When I first started with the social media, it was any negative comment I got was like, I can't do this anymore.
Yeah.
But it's definitely gotten easier. Being a content creator for ADHD, it's kind of a minefield. You know what I mean? Like there's problems with ADHD on social media. Like I think everyone agrees with that. There's a lot of misinformation out there. So I think there's a lot of people who are instantly skeptical. And in my case, when I'm very cautious with my content. I always make sure that like I'm talking about a symptom of ADHD or a symptom of executive dysfunction, which is a product of ADHD, right? Always. I make very certain that happens. So there's no like loose, like, oh, this is like ADHD thing. It's also something that isn't really ADHD, right? Like it's the chances of this happening are just as likely for somebody without ADHD, which you see a lot. So I'm very particular about that. But still, I got people in my comment. I've got a series that's like shitty things people with ADHD experience, part 1 through I think 7 right now. And I just saw comments rolling from this guy. It was like, not ADHD part 1, not ADHD part 2, not ADHD part 3, right? On every one of the videos. And it's like, for me now, it doesn't bother me as much as it used to, but it's like, what's hard for me is not responding to it right away.
Yes.
With comments like that, I usually don't do like text replies. Sometimes I'll do video replies, but I never let emotion get in the way when doing those videos. I always want to kind of speak to it very pragmatically, I guess, almost from the perspective like this person would like to understand, what's really going on, right?
Can we have some pragmatism, please? How did you hone that skill?
Which one?
Being pragmatic.
Responding to people like that? Oh, probably just my experience working with customers in the past. Like I got my start in the professional world in customer service, and then managed contact centers. And you work with clients and businesses, people long enough, you kind of understand that like there's no room for emotion because that doesn't accomplish anything. Not only that, but like it's kind of come back to you in a bad way.
Yeah.
So I think that I probably just learned just through business. And yeah, I think I could probably point to a couple events in my past where I did respond like in an emotional way, and it just came back like to bite me.
Yeah.
Of course, a lot of people like to go to TikTok to watch people, crap all over other people in the comments when they say something stupid. I mean, I'm guilty of watching those videos too, but like I think people also appreciate me not getting heated in those moments and kind of approaching it from, trying to approach it from an educational standpoint.
Because I suppose, it's been said, again, we're not experts. We're only experts by our own experience. We're learning and we're sharing what we learn. But I've read somewhere that sometimes for those of us lacking in the dopamine department, some people get their dopamine from being confrontational, from conflict and that kind of anger sort of thing.
Makes sense, yeah.
And obviously, if somebody wants to be provocative, then they're looking for a fight. So it's better to not give it to them, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, no, that's 100%. And that's kind of like, I saw somebody comment on TikTok a while back. It was a content creator who was replying to someone's mean comment. And they're like, oh, I can't believe this is happening. And somebody replied in the comment like, hey, just, keep in mind that most of the comments that you see like this are probably like 12-year-olds,
Yeah.
You think about that, like there's like the 12-year-olds, and there's people who just troll and people who get, kicks out of just being confrontational. It's like,
it's not worth it.
The best way that you can respond to this in general, the best way to not give them what they want is to, be civilized about it, right?
I was listening to another podcast the other week, and the girl who was being interviewed was doing a documentary, and she'd been publicly trolled, and she actually went and approached the people that had said things to her on the internet and asked them if they wanted to be in her documentary to talk about what they said.
Yeah.
And not one of them took her up on that offer.
Oh, really?
So wow. It's like you're happy enough to write it down on a public forum, but when push comes to shove, you won't talk about what you said because
I mean, it's that disconnect. Like I've seen it with customers, like the disconnect between in-person like interactions. Like when I would fly out places and do like in-person things, or like when I worked at Dunkin' Donuts in a coffee shop. You have the in-person interaction. The difference between that and people talking on the phone when they're upset is significant. And then the difference between people talking on the phone when they're upset and putting it in emails is significant. And then I think that the further away you get from like a face-to-face interaction, the less you care about what you are doing to that person, right?
Yeah, it makes so much sense.
Yeah, that's funny though. I thought you were going to say that they wanted to be featured, but like justifying what they said, in some way.
No, they hadn't said very nice things about this woman and weren't brave enough to put their face to it or, say it to her in person. So yeah, just invite them all on the podcast,
crazy.
shall we? All the
Right.
We were talking when we mentioned dopamine.
Yeah.
How do you get yours?
I mean, right now, just being with my daughter. I mean, I'm lucky enough to work from home, and I get to see her like all day, which is just incredible. We go to the park after I'm done working every day. It's like it's the greatest thing ever. Aside from like how I get dopamine, I'm obviously not a doctor, and that's going to be very clear when I talk about dopamine this way. But if I think about dopamine as like fuel in the tank, for me, two big ways. One is exercise. The other one is meditation. My life looks drastically different when I'm going to the gym consistently. In fact, as we all do with ADHD, as I have my dips, right, where I'm start to become not productive for a little while, and I kind of like, oh God, I gotta get out of this. It's always in periods when I'm not exercising. Maybe I got like sick or something, or I don't know, something has happened that's made it harder to get to the gym. I'm usually ending up in that dip. And meditation has just been like one of the best things ever, just to give myself the time to step away from all of the, constant racing thoughts that oftentimes aren't productive, and kind of like just clear that out, it's one of the best things I've ever done.
Is there a certain type of meditation you do? Because obviously lots of people with ADHD struggle with meditation. Yeah. Is there something that you do that you find helps?
Yeah, so my go-to is guided meditations, mindfulness exercises that focus on breathing, and are guided. That helps. One of the frustrating parts about like managing your ADHD is there's not a lot that you can do and see like clear-cut results for. A lot of times it's kind of like a soft transition, and sometimes it's not even noticeable. You're like, oh yeah, that is better. I talked about taking fish oil pills like omega-3s. Like there's been some research to suggest that helps with ADHD, right? But you're not going to take fish oil pills and be like, oh, like I'm, all of a sudden I can focus.
I'm cured. That's not how it works.
Right. But when COVID hit, that's when I was meditating the most. I mean, I felt significantly different, just way more in the moment, way more focused, way happier, not getting irritable, as often, or frustrated by situations that didn't go my way,
There's so many different types of meditation as well. When people tend to think about meditation, they think that they have to sit quiet and be still for a time and not think about anything. But it can be the exact opposite.
No, it can be going for a walk, right? Yeah, going for a walk and just picking up on all the sound, like trying to identify all the sounds, focus on the plants, and being mindful is really at the core of meditation.
Yeah.
You can do that with anything. I don't know if you guys have heard about the faucet meditation. Like you just go in the bathroom, turn on the faucet, and focus on the water for 5 minutes, and that will just totally like relax you. And it's just about what you see, what you hear,
being present.
Or like grabbing an ice cube and just feeling the sensation as it melts in your hand. There's so many things that you can do to be mindful, and it really does a good job of just clearing out all the junk out of the brain.
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? Because like I try and do meditation. I do benefit from it. I have an app, but it's consistency and forgetfulness.
Yeah.
But what I often say, because when we hear it a lot, like, I can't do that because my mind is too busy, and it's like torture trying to sit still or trying to stay with it. But my understanding of it is about how many times you come back.
Yes.
So there is no point where I'm not going, what will I wear to that thing next week, and what will I have for dinner? It's noticing that my brain has done that and going, I've done that thing again, come back. And even if all I do is yo-yo backwards and forwards for the full 10 minutes, I've still done it, right?
Yeah. Exactly. I heard that described one time by so I think of like a speaker doing like a TED talk. That's like, consider doing that. Like when you catch your mind wandering, you bring it back to your breath. That's like doing like a bicep curl for your mind, right? Each time you do that. Yeah.
And the more you do it, the less your mind will wander away.
Yep, exactly. Right.
On the day and the hormones and the
But in theory, that is how it should work.
Yes.
But I do it sometimes when I'm doing the dishes. When I'm washing the dishes, I'm stood at the sink and I'm like, right, I'm going to concentrate on
the sounds, the smells,
Yeah.
the touch, everything that I'm doing,
Yep.
and focus just on that job. Same
Yep.
with brushing your teeth.
Yeah, makeup, doing my
Yeah.
hair,
Yep.
like things where you have to be in the moment and really present. Yeah.
Exactly. And the crazy thing about, I mean, I hate doing dishes as much as the next person with ADHD, but like when you're mindful in the moment, it actually doesn't make it's not bad, right? Like
Yeah.
once you get into it, it's like it makes the experience more enjoyable, and you benefit from it afterwards.
Absolutely.
Fantastic. If you're finding this podcast helpful and you're in a position to do so, please join our Patreon peer support community via the link in the blurb of this episode. For unheard bonus and full interview video content and behind the scenes exclusives, including a next guest spoiler and first dibs and discounts on our handmade and ethically created merchandise and apparel, and live events tickets. Also blogs, vlogs, live community Zoom blethers, monthly advice from an ADHD coach, body doubling, and access to our Discord, filled with literally like-minded legends from all around the globe, including ourselves, who totally get it, who you can lean on, learn from, and blether with any time. Because the only people who know what it's like aboard the late ADHD diagnosis roller coaster are the other passengers.
We've created this platform in order to support ourselves financially, to be able to continue creating ADHD AF and for our podcast to remain ad-free. If you don't have the funds, there are other peer support platforms available. Check out the resources page on ADHDasfemales.com. If you can support us, in turn, you will receive the support of our community, a full circle of support for the Leopard Print Army. We spent our entire lives feeling like aliens, only to discover there's a whole planet of us. So hop aboard the spaceship and join us at patreon.com/ADHDasfemales.
If you would like to support us without joining the community, you can make a donation via our Buy Me a Coffee page, buymeacoffee.com/ADHDasfemales.
Both of us and the entire ADHD AF community really, really appreciate your support.
We really do. So, would you like to bust a misconception for us? What would you like the world to know about ADHD?
What would I like the world to know about ADHD? That's a big question. I would love the world to know that there are real reasons as to why it's difficult for people with ADHD to do things that they aren't interested in, and understand that we know that a lot of these things that you don't like doing either, right? But it's the not liking it and being able to do it that is exceedingly difficult for us. And there are neurochemical reasons as to why that is so difficult. So I don't know. That's a really hard thing, because like I think the hardest thing about it is you can't know what that feels like, right? Because you can't be in anyone else's head but your own. So you have to take our word for it, right? So if there was some way to just kind of impart that understanding, I think that's what I would want the most. Yeah.
I think we just go round to their houses when they've got loads of chores to do, and we tie them up. And that's what it feels like, right?
Yeah, this is one of those illustrations that I think can be really important for my one of my videos on social media. What is, for a neurotypical person, like what is a setting for them where they are unable to like do the task in the moment? Like, is it coming home from like a 12-hour shift doing physical work, sitting down on the couch, having 2 beers, and then it's like, oh, you got to do this thing? Like, what's a setting that would allow them to like think back and feel what it would be like to have zero motivation to do something that they didn't want to do? Like, I want to find that thing.
I mean, that's a brilliant example.
Yeah.
I like, my brain was just going to places like, I mean, it's not the same thing, but like, what if you had to complete a questionnaire, but at the same time, somebody is playing the accordion and tap dancing, and there's a baby crying, but like all right in front of you in your living room? Or do you know what I mean? I was just trying to and what it would feel like.
What I think is funny about that is I think you just described something that would be impossible for somebody with ADHD, but maybe not somebody without ADHD. right? Like, because like for us, it would be impossible to filter out all of that. But for a neurotypical person, they might be able to do it. I mean, I
They
don't know,
might be
but
able to.
yeah,
Yeah.
but yeah. Anyways, that's kind of like one of my like holy grail videos, if I can figure that out.
So, what would you like our listeners to know? So, the floor is yours to give our listeners a message from you.
Yes. So I think everyone who has ADHD, who's doesn't know they have ADHD yet, knows they have ADHD. Like it doesn't matter. You have ADHD, you've likely looked externally for solutions to some of the problems that you face, and you've come across them, whether it's on Google, or in books or apps or programs or whatever. You found solutions, you've tried to implement them, and you've fallen off within, a few days. I have, we all have the app graveyard on our phone of old apps that like we use for once or twice and then never again, never uninstalled. And it's super demoralizing, and it starts to feel like there's nothing that you could do, nothing's going to work. And I think what's really important for people to understand is there are tools and systems that are going to work for you, but they are things that you're going to have to create to some degree, right? That doesn't necessarily mean like, you need to build your own app. You can find an app, but it doesn't stop there. Like to get the app to be something that is used and helpful to you, you're going to have to do more with it. You're going to have to build it into your day and into your environment. And oftentimes it's going to require some deliberate thinking, right? You're going to have to meditate on how this is going to be something that is useful in your day, in your environment, and how you're going to implement it every day that you want to use it, right? So that requires approaching, any sort of management solution in a way that requires like dedicated time to really work it out. And whatever the solution you come up with, try as best you can to disconnect your idea of what like a normal person managing their day looks like, because that's not going to be you. So to give you an example, for me personally, planning is something that's notoriously difficult for people with ADHD, right?
Yeah.
So my planner is a voice recording that I took where I asked myself, what did you do yesterday? What are you going to do today? What are you going to do this week? What are you going to do this month? What are you going to do this year? So I have a voice recording of myself asking those questions. After I ask a question, there's a minute of silence. Then I ask the next question, then a minute of silence, and then I ask the next question. Each morning I put in my headphones and I play that audio recording and I type on a Google Doc responses to that, or a Google form responses to those prompts. And the reason why I do that is because it eliminates as much friction behind the planning process as possible. I literally put on my headphones and I start typing, and that's it. I'm not even reading questions because the prompts are being read to me and I'm responding to it. And then I hit submit, and that's it. I can refer back to the plan throughout the day. Actually, it doesn't stop there. I have a calendar alert that gets sent to me where I can click into the link to play the audio and then respond to the prompt on my computer. So I've tried to eliminate as many friction points as possible to make that as smooth as possible, because that's going to be something that I do, right?
Yeah.
So that is what creating an ADHD management solution looks like. That doesn't look like something that I have ever heard anyone else using before. It's something that I needed to figure out for myself. I dedicated time to coming up with that solution, and it works for me. And there are things.
I like that. It sounds like a great idea, because you're saying it's like your day, your week, your month, your year. So like I imagine the things that are, further away for like month and year, you maybe will have planned something one day and you're kind of adding to that or changing that.
Evolving.
And that's evolving constantly. Yeah.
Exactly. And it's the repetition, right? So like if I'm talking about the same thing every year, I'm returning to that. Like maybe I forget about it the next day, but then I return to it and I'm referring back to the plan. And over time, it's something that I talk about every day. So like you're reinforcing it mentally, right? When you're talking about this thing that you want to accomplish. So yeah, it's short-term planning, it's long-term planning, it's reinforcing. it does a lot. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think also, I mean, the thing that really stands out for me in all of this, so when we just went on tour, we just toured the UK, and one of the main messages of our tour is that if you can identify the unique ways in which you struggle with ADHD, because obviously part of our message is that we're the same age, same from the same sort of place. We have all of these similarities, but actually, even with the same symptoms, ADHD presents differently in both of us and causes us different problems, right? In our life. So the message being that if you can identify your very unique struggles, the second step is the hardest part. If you can accept that you're always going to be up against it in these realms, then you can identify or put systems in place able to support you through that, which will enable you to achieve anything, or at least support you in your struggles with those things. Now, what you've said there is so incredibly clever, because the step is about the reminder with the link to listen to the audio, right? Because otherwise you could have this brilliant system, but you could forget to listen to the audio. Now that is absolutely genius, isn't it? Because you're really identifying the bits of the plan that you could fall down in and put a system in place to support you in that. Is it brilliant?
So an example, and I'm just turning my laptop here, is, as you can see on the wall behind me, is the system that I've been trying to put in place for myself. And it's a very similar system to your talking prompt one, in that I've got my daily bare minimum tasks. I've got what I want to get done today, this week, this month, this quarter, this year. And I've got everything color coordinated so that I'm, making sure that I'm covering all areas. So like my home environment, my work, uni, my physical health, my social cup, fun, life admin type stuff, and then personal self-care. And so whenever I write something in, I do it in the color so that I know that each day I'm making sure that there's at least one thing from each color in there, so that I'm, kind of filling up that cup. However, I set this thing up and I used it for a week.
And the problem as well is that kind of object permanence thing, because now you walk in the room and it's just part of the furniture.
Right. It
just
disappears.
in the background, you can't even see it.
Yep. Disappears.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I mean that's a extremely difficult hurdle in any system that you're going to put in place, right? I'm not exactly sure what the answer is to that one. Obviously, having some sort of external, like the reminder, get the notification, you click it, some external way to kind of kickstart it is helpful, but still, like, it's difficult to do.
It's a bit like when people have apps to remind them to drink water. Right? And then you get so used to the notifications, you just swipe them away and don't drink the water. Are you drinking water now?
Yeah, I know. So am I.
No, exactly. So I mean, another cool one that I've heard, I haven't used this myself. I just haven't set it up, but I want to, is getting color changing smart bulbs, and having those set to different events. In my case, like when it's time to plan or whatever, if I'm in my office, to have the lights turn blue, right, at a certain time. And that's just something in your external environment to kind of like kickstart that process. And so another thing with the planning thing that I have, one of the pieces that helps is everything is time constrained. So like, I know I'm not going to spend more than 6 minutes on this exercise. So having that be a very short amount of time, there's no talk in the back of my mind saying like, we don't have time for that right now. Right.
Well, this is an enormous mountain to climb.
So I think looking at what you have set there is, I mean, that looks like a lot. And every time you look at it, it's probably like, okay, now this is a mental investment. I don't know how long it's going to take to, kind of work everything out. So, if there's a way to kind of constrain everything a little bit more, it might help.
Well, that's it. I mean, it's obviously work in progress. So I think definitely tweaks. But I love the idea of having an audio play. It's like even an audio of myself talking to wake me up in the morning, just have a conversation with myself. Hey, good morning, Dawn.
That is
exactly.
Yeah, it's so interesting because at the end of the day, you know, there are so many videos of hacks and tips and tricks and, you know, or, you know, we're never going to write a list that's going to be so amazing that we're not going to have ADHD.
Yeah.
With all the will in the world, we're not going to not have ADHD. So it really is about identifying your unique struggles. Like for me, you know, a lot of my
100%.
stuff, like we're looking at this, we've given 2 examples of Dawn's, like a lot of my struggles are in the emotional realm. They are in self-care, in putting myself first. You know, I can get up and be like, right, I'm going to do this, 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 and this. And, you know, not even need a list because my brain's going at 1,000,000 miles an hour and putting so much value on these external things that you were saying the other day. Like, I almost feel like I don't deserve a shower until I've actually ticked these 7 boxes because I have to earn it or something. So it's a really funny thing. And again, like the morning body doubling has been really helpful because it means that I'm telling myself that those are the days that I should be exercising, you know?
Yeah.
But again, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. you know?
Yeah. For sure.
In terms of work, it's something that we've been doing, isn't it? Is trying to identify our unique struggles, look at the ways we can support each other in it, and just, you know, understand it's always going to be a struggle. And we're not just gonna, this time we'll crack it. It's never gonna happen.
I think it's quite funny as well because of our differences. In that I'm more of a planner. Like I prefer to have a plan and structure and stuff in place before I do something, an organization. But that leads to me having problems because I spend so much time in the planning and organization phases that I don't get the things done.
Executed.
Yeah. And then for you, there is very little planning and organization. It's just dive straight in, get the thing done, which is obviously great in some ways, but then can let you down in other ways. So it's like we're, you know, trying to find what works for us as individuals.
Well, yeah. And I think definitely in terms, it's like what we said with the can't start, can't stop, is in just cracking on. Well, you can always just crack on with everything. So when do you stop?
Yeah.
And that's the issue. It's like if everything feels immediate and you should just be getting on with it right now, how do you put it down?
Or how do you, so I was just here, I have some clothes in this closet in my office that I use for filming, and I was looking at them and I was thinking like, man, it'd be so nice if these clothes were organized a little bit, or I had like, you know, different types of shirts or like by color or something. And my subsequent thought was like, that sounds like the worst use of time ever for me, because there are a million other things that I could be doing right now that are more productive, more useful. And then the next thought was like, some people can organize the closet. This is something that would be helpful. They do it and they fit it into their day in some way that like makes sense. Like, how does that, like, how do you rationalize that? For me, that's a big thing. Like, because I'm very much like you, Laura, in that I like to dive into tasks without the planning, right? So oftentimes my entire vision is just like, what is priority, right? Whatever's in front of me, like what is priority? Like that's the thing that you need to work on. And the problem with that is then other things pile up, right? Like the things that aren't as important sit and eventually don't get done.
Yeah.
So if I don't have, like, if I'm not planning, if I'm not organizing, like that is my default, right? That is what I go to, which by the way, another message that I would want to convey is that, like, I think we all do this. I certainly do this. I observe what people are doing, normal human nature. And it's like, there are a lot of functions that seem to happen automatically, right? And so my expectation almost with people in general is that, like, you should be able to have the voice in your head that tells you, like, you know, what you need to do at certain times, right? We don't have that. And you need to keep reminding yourself that you don't have that. So you need to put something in place to deal with that. Because if you fall back on, you know, what your natural tendencies are, things are going to fall apart. And you may see in other people what looks like, you know, an ability to do that, just fall back on like whatever their natural tendencies are, and things get done, things happen. We can't do that.
Yeah.
right? Like we need to have stuff in place constantly, all the time. Otherwise, things are going to fall apart. Being aware of that helps. Being aware that doesn't mean that you're not still going to fall apart from time to time, because you are. But I personally, I think for a lot of years, I was convincing myself that like things are going to work out, like things are going to be better, like you're going to be okay just being you, which to me meant like just like not putting an effort in certain areas of like organization and planning. That's not the case, right? You gotta have systems. You gotta have systems in place.
100%.
It's always work in progress, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, it's getting real.
Yeah.
Isn't it? It's getting real. Really facing yourself, facing your issues, and accepting that they're not just going to go away. You're going to have to tackle them.
And accepting that it's constantly going to be something that you need to work on constantly.
Yeah.
Like it's never going to go away. It's never going to be something you can be like, okay, I did it. Now I can chill. I can relax. Like I've got I set up what I need to set up. Now I can chill. It's like you constantly have to put an effort.
It's a lot of acceptance, isn't it? Because you need to accept that this is the way you are in order for you to find the things to put in place. And you have to accept other things, like you have to accept that you're important. You deserve things. You deserve to be looked after. You deserve to put yourself clean. You deserve to be clean. You deserve to put yourself first, because really, and we all know this, like if you're not looking after yourself, you can't do anything else or to the best of your ability, you know?
I think, and another huge realization we were talking about as well is accepting that your actions do have an effect on others.
Yeah.
So, you know, we always say to say you have ADHD and you struggle with something is an explanation, not an excuse. But it can explain so that it makes sense through a different lens what your actions are doing, but it also doesn't absolve anybody of responsibility. Like, you know, and I'm prepared to get it wrong a million times, and you tell me and I'll say sorry and you'll know I haven't meant to, but I'm going to try again. At no point am I going to say, well, sorry, I've got ADHD, I'm not going to do it at all. That's not fair. You know, we have to accept that with all the will in the world, we are all responsible or try to be responsible.
100%. And that I think like that might be a function of I was thinking a lot about that actually, and like I don't use my ADHD as an excuse because I know better. Like I was trying to think of like when I was young, if I was being honest with myself, did I ever use my ADHD as an excuse? Like, and I don't know the answer to that, but as I've grown older and matured and know how the world works, like I see ADHD now as like, if it causes a problem, it's a problem, and how it affected somebody, that's all that matters, and that's what needs to be resolved, right? So saying I have ADHD and that's why that happened, that doesn't do anything, right? That's not productive in any way at all. I don't know if my mentality was different when I was younger. I need to think more about it, and if there was a shift. But because if that was the case, then it was certainly a product of maturity that kind of like made me realize that. But it's hard to say. Anyway, like and as somebody in their 30s now, like it's obvious to me, like ADHD is not an excuse, can never be an excuse, because it doesn't matter, right? Like all that matters is that it had an effect. If that effect is negative, then something needs to be done about it to resolve it. In relationships, specifically, like with my wife, like if she tells me something, 5 times and I don't process it, and then, later on she's upset because I didn't do something that, we had talked about, apparently, like it's a problem, right? It doesn't matter that I have ADHD. Like, okay, that's a problem. I've hurt you. That's all that matters right now. What can we do
address it and
to fix the problem now and try to prevent that from happening in the future.
Yeah,
exactly. So a new question that we've added to this series is, what is your win of the week?
My win of the week, I would say TikTok offers a program now where creators can get paid for posts on like performance. And I got a payment from them this week that was like decent.
Yeah,
So
nice.
that was my win for this week, I would say.
Congratulations.
Well done.
That's amazing.
Thank you.
That is amazing.
Thank you.
Do you find it, I've just gone back into the social media chat. Do you find it hard to switch off from? Can you be disciplined with your time, or are you like waking up in the morning, looking at your phone, checking things kind of thing?
Yeah, no, it's I haven't been super disciplined with it recently. I think as a creator, it adds another element of difficulty to like abstaining from social media, because when I post, I'm really interested to see how the post is performing. You know, so I'll go back to it, and it's very easy when you open up the app to check your video to start scrolling, right? Recently, it's been a little more than I would like. Yeah, so something I gotta reel in, which I will. But yeah, it's man, it's just like it's a trap. Social media is just a trap.
Absolutely it is. Okay, well, we will wrap up with the question. What is the most ADHD thing you've done this week?
I would say my most ADHD thing I've done this week is miss the email that you sent saying that we should, or you asked if today would be good. And I missed that email until last night, my time, which gave you guys pretty much no time to know that I was ready to do this. And I was fully expecting you to be like, too short notice, like we could reschedule. So I appreciate you guys.
No problem at
We
all.
are super grateful with you for chatting to us.
Yeah.
And we've been wanting to speak to you for a long time. So thank you so much for giving us your time. We really appreciate it.
Thank you guys. Yeah, so happy we were able to do this. And yeah, I've been excited to speak with you guys too. This was fun.
Amazing. And so is it Life Actuator across all platforms if people want to find you?
Yep, Life Actuator, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, which I'm trying to ramp up my YouTube channel. It's been slower to grow that than I'm used to, like the quick growth with TikTok and Instagram and YouTube. It's just a different game. So yeah, YouTube as well. Facebook, which I need to start posting on Facebook more. And yeah, my website, lifeactuator.com.
Amazing.
Is there anything else you would like to add?
Just congratulations to you guys for the success that you've been having with this podcast. It's super awesome. You guys are awesome. Congrats on like the tour. That's super cool.
Thank you so much. That's really kind.
Yeah. And yeah, no, this was great. Yeah, I hope in the back of my mind, I'm thinking like maybe I'll do a podcast at some point in the future.
Well, if you do, we'd love to come and have another chin wag, because it's been lovely speaking to you.
Yeah, for sure. So I'll definitely reach out to you guys if I ever get that going. But yeah, this was fun. Thank you guys so much.
Amazing. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
So that was Eric, aka Life Actuator, and what an incredible guy. He's doing so much for the ADHD community, and it's not just about helping people with ADHD, but his driving force is awareness, and it's ADHD Awareness Month, so what better time to have him on? He's doing incredible work, not just for people within the community, but reaching people outside of the community and teaching people about ADHD and how debilitating it can be for the people that have to suffer with it. Both Eric and Amy, who we had on last week, have really kind of reignited my interest in the whole mindfulness thing. I definitely think I've been one of those people who have been put off mindfulness and meditation because I didn't think it worked for me. But I now see how many different ways it can be done. And I've recently started looking into it a lot more, and I'm trying to practice mindfulness in my daily routine. I've recently become extremely aware that a lot of my procrastination and task paralysis comes from the time I spend ruminating and worrying and going over and over things in my head. And that's not just a direct result of my ADHD symptoms, but it's a result of unhealthy coping mechanisms that I've put in place due to undiagnosed ADHD. So practicing a little bit of mindfulness and being able to make yourself present can really help. And so that's exactly what I'm trying to do. And I think it could be a useful tool to a lot of people during this difficult time with the medication shortages. Not easy to do, definitely not easy to do, but it's called mindfulness practice because that's exactly what it is. It's practice. But yeah, I think it could be a really powerful and useful tool to many at this time and beyond. But we're going to head back over to Laura. We'll get her feedback and then we will move on to our most ADHD things.
So massive thank you to Eric. It was really, really great to catch up with him. It's a shame, really, in a way, because obviously we spent the summer recording these episodes, whereas actually it would be so interesting to know right now what's going on in America with their medication, which we actually don't know. So perhaps if anybody listening might send us that information that we could also put out, that would be great to know. Yeah, it's really trying to figure out how we can support ourselves in the absence of that thing that has helped so many of us. But I really love Eric's whole stance on ADHD, like his tagline on his enormous platform that he's obviously done so incredibly well and worked very hard on, doing great things in the community, is ADHD imposed itself on me. I now expose it to the world. So yeah, fair play to him. I really like his idea of like when things go wrong, it's a given that ADHD has made things go wrong, but it's also not just going, oh, well, it's ADHD and shrug your shoulders. It's like we always say, putting the systems in place to support ourselves to try not to trip up in the same way again, knowing full well that like Catiosaurus said, ADHD has a 100% relapse rate. The same problems will keep coming back to trip us up. So it's up to us to try and put systems in place. I feel like it's a really ridiculous thing to say, but I've been doing a bit of writing lately, and in part of that, I've really been diving into proverbs. I'm really into them. It's a bit nerdy, but I've kind of really had in my mind this one Irish proverb that says, "May the cat eat you, and may the devil eat the cat." Really random. Like, it's just fun. Like, it makes me laugh, even the sound of it. But what it means is if you were saying that to somebody, you're saying like, may you suffer twice. So you're kind of effectively getting eaten twice, right? And it just really feels like it rings really true in this situation with medication. Is like, we've already been failed once in having to battle through life with our ADHD and identified with all of the damage that has done to us, to our relationships, careers, to our mental health and our self-worth, and all of the, unhealthy coping strategies that we have had to build up around us in the absence of knowing what the hell was going on. But for so many of us that have found medication so helpful to us, in this new medication shortage, we're being failed twice. We're getting eaten by the devil as well, for want of a better phrase. It's like we're now suffering twice, and it just feels so, it's already unjust. It's like, how many more times do we have to be failed by the system? And as I say, that is why we're just mucking in and doing our bit as best we can, because God knows we need help, and Lord knows we need each other. And, there's only so much we can do in terms of, raising awareness. There is so much that we can do, and there is so much that is done in the community, but it's outside of that, to the governments and to healthcare providers. Like, you've got to stop failing people that have already been failed so spectacularly and to such disastrous and sometimes fatal consequences. It's just completely unacceptable. So again, I refer you to this imaginary webpage that I'm going to pull out of my arse in about 5 minutes' time, fingers crossed. And also say that with regards to this ADHDF Make It Count campaign, I forgot to mention on ADHDF Day, if you are wherever you are in the world dressing up in leopard print, please do tell us alongside your number where in the world you are, because that's a really important part of the information that we need for our campaign. So thank you very much. Thank you again to Eric. And thank you to everybody for listening and supporting us. We really, really appreciate it. And just a reminder that in just a few weeks, I'm going to be doing some live shows at that particular time of year, which can be triggering to many of us for many reasons. And I would love to see you there. And there will be more guest announcements. Obviously, we've announced Amy Polly. I would also like to announce Nicole Nadler will be there, which is amazing. And Steph of All the Discos, part of the Emporium of, will be at the English shows. And there are more guest announcements to come. It's just there's so many plates spinning right now. It's really tough. And to be honest, I can't even think about those shows right now, but I must. So just to let you know, and the London tickets are really selling fast. They are going. So if you want to be at that London show in particular, I would get on board with that now. And a final reminder that on the 25th of October, so Wednesday the 25th, after ADHDF Day, in our community, our live blether that we have monthly with our community gold members will this time be recorded for a very special episode of this podcast, which will go out on the last day of ADHD Awareness Month, which is Halloween. And if you would like to have your say, if you would like to be on the podcast as part of this ADHD Awareness Month special, then do join us in the community via the link in bio of our socials. The handle of our socials is at ADHD as Females, or in the blurb of this episode.
Thanks again to Laura. This will never not feel weird doing these audios separately. But yeah, thank you for the feedback, and also for sharing that proverb about the eating a cat and then the devil eating it. It was really fitting with the circumstances around the whole ADHD medication crisis that we're facing. So before we wind up this episode, we are just going to quickly go over our most ADHD things, and I'm going to share one from Instagram. I went to a gig with a friend. He gave me a lift. We have the same car and therefore the same key. He asked if he could put his keys in my bag. End of the night, he asks for them back. I didn't even think about it, and I gave him my keys. Then I got a taxi all the way home, leaving him with my keys so he couldn't get in his car or his house. I had to get a taxi back to where the gig was so that we could exchange keys. Oopsie. But easily done, right? Totally can see how that could happen. Easy mistake. So my most ADHD thing this week is being stuck in my head with task paralysis and procrastination taking over. So really, I've not been able to focus well at all on everything, because I have been inside of my head quite a lot, and as a result, it's held me back. And hand-in for the current project at uni is on Friday, and it's obviously less than a week away, and I have a lot of work to do. So yeah, I'm going to go away from this, practice some mindfulness, and try and stay present on the task to whip up some kind of coherent project for this first hand-in. We'll see how that goes. Let's find out what Laura's most ADHD thing is.
My most ADHD thing of this week, alongside double booking myself all over the shop, is obviously leaving my laptop at home to come away for a mini break in which I have a shit ton of work, including, as I said, a web page to build, and only having my phone with which to do it. Also included being part of the ADHD Untangled, so Rosie Turner's event, and only having my phone. And so when it came to our turn to speak, I couldn't even figure out how to work Zoom on my phone and get myself off mute, and it was just an absolute calamity. But it was a wonderful event. Super grateful to Rosie for having us and for giving us an award. We're very, very grateful for that. And as I mentioned earlier, with everybody who is putting out really important and useful content about the ADHD medication, I meant to include Rosie in that as well. So do check out her page and her podcast, ADHD Untangled.
yes, a big thank you to Rosie for having us as part of her first Untangled event. It was such an amazing event, and it was so good to see all of the community come together like that. I learned so much from it as well. I took a lot away from that. So thank you again. And also for our incredible award. We've never won an award before. So yeah, we're really grateful for that. Thank you so much. And hopefully there won't be too many episodes recorded this way in the future, but thanks for sticking by us, and we really hope you've enjoyed this episode with Eric. I've certainly taken a lot from it, and I know Laura has too. And just a reminder, you can get the ADHD awareness pins from our website. They're still available. £5 from each sale goes towards the ADHD AF Leopard Print Army Fund. Remember, get that date, the 23rd, ADHD AF Day, in your diary. Make it count. Give us your number, wear leopard print, and help be part of the push for change. And as Laura said, tickets are available for the live shows at that time of year that begins with a C and ends with ass. I'm not going to say the word because I'm not allowed, but tickets are available. London's selling fast. Grab your tickets now, and we will catch you again next week. Lots of love. Bye.
ADHD females, ADHD AF, ADHD females, the podcast.
We did it for the acronym.